Ray, did you go to film school?
I did not go to film school per se. I took film classes growing up throughout high school and then into college. So I didn't go to film school. I wanted to go to film school, upon graduating high school, but it just wasn't a route that I went down.
Why didn't you go?
Well, money is always an issue. And then moving away, was kind of a thing as well. So it was just a matter of, I guess, taking the leap, taking the chance, and doing it.
Yeah, I get the sense that family and friends are very important to you.
Yeah, definitely. They've been supportive, and but it also has taken some time to say or show, this is what I like to do and have continued doing over the years. Because film school, I guess, would be a start for a lot of people, but I started in middle school, with a Handycam, Sony Handycam, and just being inspired by shows at the time like Tom Green or Mad TV. And it was things like that, it kind of made little prank videos and things like that. So it just kind of turned from that until, for school, once I got into high school, as an elective video production. So that's kind of how I got my foot sort of focused on that.
So did you have aspirations to go to film school, but someone talked you out of it, aside from money, or?
That was like maybe later on in high school, but it took some time as far as, going through school and taking these video production classes and learning that it could be a route in the future.
How do you think film school would have changed your life had you gone?
I think it might have focused me and, been a pretty direct path possibly into the film world. For me, a lot of it has been freelance work or just, kind of figuring it out along the way. So I definitely think going to film school may have been a good route. But I went to college at Palomar College in Escondido, northern San Diego. And we learned video production things there. You take different courses, motion graphics, the real basics, which I feel like I learned in high school as well. But it was a starting route. And so, yeah.
They always say that film school is great because you can make contacts. But I get the sense with you make friends wherever you go.
Yeah, making contacts, I think, along the way I've learned is a big part of this business. They say it's not about what you know, it's who you know. But I think it's about who you get to know, And so over the years, I've just been able to meet different people, and along the way, that leads you to, the next door.
Do you think it's easier in San Diego because maybe people's guard is down a little more than if you were in LA proper, where everyone's kind of like, ooh, what's this person trying to sell me?
I feel like maybe there's less competition, but there was also not that much support or community as far as the film world. And maybe I just wasn't a part of it at that time in my life. But yeah.
Do you regret not going to film school?
I don't regret not going to film school because I've moved on and moved past it. And by not going to film school, it's given me the time to learn on my own. And, you don't have to, you're not forced by a structure or a grade or those deadlines in that sense. But just by being able to freelance and learn along the way, it's given me some time, and it's definitely taken, quite a while of time, many years of time learning. But I also think it's helped as far as, be able to hone in on certain things or, figure out what I do best at. So,
right. And we're going to talk about the drone filmmaking and all that in a little bit. What advantages do you think you have as a self-taught filmmaker?
The advantages I think I have as a self-taught filmmaker is being a video editor. That was kind of what I learned along the way is anything that comes out, the editing has to be on point. So it's helped me be a better director, better writer on my own short projects. So being a video editor, I feel like is a real key to kind of being a filmmaker. You know, you have to know as a director, whatever shot you set up or whatever the story is, that it's going to come down to the editing. And is what you're shooting worth it? Is it going to end up on the cutting room floor? So, and not be utilized, you know?
What would you say to someone that says you have to go to film school to be a filmmaker?
Yeah, I don't believe you have to go to film school to be a filmmaker, especially these days. You know, everybody has, most people have a phone in their pocket, which you can start right there with, making a short film. And now, with the different things people post online, shorts or reels, there's various ways to learn how to tell a story, whether it's a short film or, a longer piece. So I don't think that you have to go to film school. You can learn these different things along the way.
What does being an independent filmmaker mean to you?
To me, being an independent filmmaker means you kind of don't have a boss. You're doing it on your own. But it's also a double-edged sword because that means you have to make your own deadlines. You have to obtain and reach for your own goals and get these things done, whatever it is. So if you're going to be making a film, you need to figure out, what do I got to do to get to that point? So.
Well, I mean, if you have a client, that's kind of your boss.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's something, I deal with as well. Each project, no matter what it is, a commercial, doing some real estate photography or videography, it's kind of like your boss for that time, and you just have to reach to meet their goals or their vision and what they're looking for in the project.
Looking at your credits for Concussed, The American Dream, which we can go more into detail later, but in terms of your credits for the film, you are associate producer, director of photography, editing by, sound recordist, aerial videographer. Why do so much?
Because this project or this film started with me and writer-director David Kano. So it was just the two of us as we began making this documentary. So we were, kind of like how they say, the guerrilla filmmaking aspect. You take what you have and you start on this journey as making a film, or in this case, a documentary. So yeah, I was the sound guy. We had the drone. I was the drone guy, and yeah.
How many different places did you fly to do interviews?
I believe we went to 33 states.
Oh, that many? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
To do interviews for this documentary. So we it took a bit of time and a couple of years doing so, but it was definitely a lot of traveling and a lot of determination to get it done.
Right, and you started in 2016?
We started, I believe, mid of 2016. Finally knew we were going to be making this documentary. I believe it was November of 2016, and have just continuously been doing that since.
What is it inside you that makes you have to constantly work on one of these film projects or video projects? I know you've made graduation videos or in memorial videos for people. It sounds like it's something that's very important to you. Right,
yeah. I think it's just a constant struggle of wanting to create, and at the same time, it's not, maybe it's luck, over the years, consistently working where you might get a call where somebody has passed away, and for example, by creating in memoriam videos, somebody might give me a call, and that is something I'm editing on for the week or two that I have, because if somebody has passed, it's a real tight deadline. So that's different than some other projects where, you might be able to plan out ahead of time, when you can shoot and whatnot.
Or music videos, things like that.
Yeah, music videos too. Yeah, that's definitely something you can plan on as far as location and things like that. So.
Right. But why do it? What is it that's interest? Why sit behind a editing?
Yeah.
Back hurts. You're there
It's
doing
just,
cuts and
yeah, it's just all I know. It's what I've been doing since, 8th grade going into high school. So it's just been a continuous journey, creating thing after thing, whatever it is, commercial, music video, documentary. So I think it's just a continuous, grind and just wanting to do it. There's nothing in me that wants to stop doing what I do because I love what I do.
But you said there was a time when people were supportive, but now maybe they see like, oh wow, this is more than just a pat on the back and good job, right? They're seeing that.
Yeah. Well, I think with family, definitely, I've created things that are touching, and then they've also seen how I've been able to do the same for other people as well. So I've been able to meet other people's goals or needs, such as when somebody passes away and I make a in memoriam video that really brings together a large amount of people and a small amount of people, but for a funeral, 150 people, it can be real difficult to put somebody's life in a 10-minute video. And I think it's something that I have a talent, I guess, at doing.
I think you've said that being a full-time video creator is not as fun as it seems.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Being a full-time video creator is not as fun as it seems because sometimes necessarily the money isn't always there, or the budget for who's hiring you isn't necessarily what you would like. It's kind of like a bidding war. They might reach out to you and say, "Oh, we got another guy who can do it for this." You know what I mean? So.
I'll just get an intern, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's definitely fun. I mean, people just see the final product and think, that was good, or they're able to put in their critiques after the fact. But, as far as, writing an idea or shooting an idea, editing an idea, it all takes time. And editing is definitely a big factor in any filmmaking process or video production process that most people are not aware of how time consuming it can be. So, but I still enjoy it. That's why I continue on creating.
And you save a lot of money by doing it yourself too?
Yeah, definitely save a lot of money. And, being able to have the knowledge of, how to shoot something and how to edit something. And it also saves time because you don't have to overlook, somebody else and tell them, no, edit it this way. So, yeah.
And you're crafting the story right there. So.
Right, yeah.
Can you list the number of ways you make money as a filmmaker?
Yeah, there's different ways you can make money as a filmmaker. I like to speak about it in video production terms. Because the term filmmaker, a lot of people think, a movie, which is definitely, a lot of the goal for a lot of people. But along the way, you may have to create commercials. You may have to create music videos. So technically, they're not, a movie or a film. But it's that same idea upon the way. So some of the ways you can earn money as a filmmaker is just being a part of either a team, whether it's a PA or, a sound person or video editor. It just depends what your role is. But for me, doing it independently, I found that, through real estate is a good way to, make money because people are always selling their homes, always looking for photography, videography. And so that's one way. In the creative field, music, people are always creating music, whether it's, hip hop, a pop artist. They always need a music video. A lot of times now these days, people are doing the vlogs. So they might need a behind the scenes type vlog for them, where you follow somebody around, which is something I've done before too in the past.
And then you've also gone to MMA fights,
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, we covered MMA fights, the different organizations along the way. There's a few different ones. And you go there and you interview the fighters, either pre or post interviews. So pre-fight, get their voice, their point of view on how they think the fight's going to go, and get their interview afterwards, which sometimes it doesn't always go their way. So those interviews could be a little bit more somber, depressing, or they may win, and those ones are they're really pumped. We were there for Fight Week for Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor, and that was a big fight. And so the fans were just really vocal. So we were in front of the stadium there doing some interviews, and the fans started grabbing the microphone, and just the energy there was just really, really up. So yeah.
That's what I was curious is, are there any sort of like unwritten rules when you're going in knowing that things could get heated, or they could, the excitement, people with men go mad in crowds or whatever. So
right.
What women do too. It's just a men thing. But any sort of protocol that you do to?
Well, mainly if you're, in the arena, you need a press pass. But as far as outside, you have to do the groundwork as far as, meeting these athletes or getting a manager's number in order to get that interview. So there's kind of not necessarily any rules in that sense. It's just about making those connections and setting up the time frame, because a lot of the time these fighters are in a fight camp, and their schedule's really, strict. They don't have any time for any extracurricular things, but during fight week, that is something some of them will take the time to do, and something we've been fortunate to be able to do over the years.
Do you have any rules on if a fan is continually in the shot and won't get out of the way, or inebriated or whatever?
We've had some really energetic fans, but in that event, that moment, like I was saying with Conor McGregor, Nate Diaz fight, the first one, the fans were just really, they were just energetic, And so we were even interviewing fans, because there's just so many out there, and they were just so vocal about their love for Conor McGregor at that time. And, we just kind of let them do what they do. And, later on we figured out if we're going to use this clip or not. But yeah, it's entertaining.
I bet. Yeah, I bet that's never a dull moment.
Yeah.
You never know what you're walking into.
Right.
Why do you prefer documentaries over everything else?
What I like about documentaries is it's real, and it's always happening. Things are always happening. So as long as the camera's running, there's going to be footage later on to overlook and figure out how to tell this story. So another thing about documentaries is it can go, various ways. It can be a happy event, it can be a sad event, and you're just there to capture it and tell it truthfully.
Yeah, and you still have to have a 3-act structure in some way. So do you think about that while you're getting footage, or no, you're just allowing events to unfold?
You definitely think about how is this going to play out, in the big picture. You do let things unfold, but like as far as, say, if you're doing an interview for a documentary, that's something that's kind of maybe planned out as far as the questions that you may ask, and you get a sense of what story you're telling, which can change the type of questions you may ask. And sometimes you don't know, you're figuring it out, either on the spot, and those things just play out for you, and then you kind of learn what a film or documentary could be about.
And without saying any names, have you had any scheduled interviews where you go to meet the person and they don't want to talk, or they're combative, or, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
So, and you're like, okay, and you've got them mic'd up and...
Right, yeah. There was definitely one interview, I will not say the person's name. They were not combative at all, but we drove all the way out there to get the interview, and, he refused. He said, he changed his mind, not at this time. So, we made our peace with it. And strangely enough, years later, we're eating at having some lunch, preparing for another interview, and we see the same person right next to us, and he actually, says hello. It was just kind of interesting how we, came full circle and happened to just be sitting right next to each other.
Wow.
So,
That's really interesting.
yeah.
Well, it's good you were able to work it out. I mean, there's
Yeah.
nothing worse than, someone not being happy with
Yeah.
what their interview.
And it's up to them, they don't want to be on camera. We're totally fine with that.
Right.
So,
You also do stringer journalism for, different news things, accidents, things like that. Almost like Jake Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler.
right. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting line of work. Can be very personal, especially if it involves people that are injured. So it can be a difficult situation when you approach a scene. But it is something that I've done over the years, whether it's fire or car accident or weather related, where something may get damaged or have damaged property.
How did you get into that?
Again, it's just being a filmmaker and always wanting to, shoot something. I think what really got me into that was back in 2004, where I lived in Poway, California. There was a wildfire that broke out. And so I was young at the time, and I just picked up my camera and just started, filming the fires around the neighborhood. They actually came pretty close to where we lived, and my dad and brother and some neighbors went out to, with water hoses and extensions to try to, put out the fire, or at least where it was heading towards the homes. But that week was definitely, something the city had not experienced before. And so I just found myself afterwards with, material of different places that had burned around us. And I ended up putting together like a short, 5 or 6 minute video. I guess that looking back, it can be somewhat like a mini documentary, or maybe kind of like a news piece. But we showed it to the local neighbors, and different people from around town watched it as well, and it kind of just got a little bit of notoriety or attention, I guess, just based off the subject. So.
And then when you've gone to other, natural disasters, whatever, do you have to have a press badge, or can you be an unofficial?
I do walk around with like a vest and then a press badge, and then I have a different credential as far as my drone work. But so I do wear the vest. It's helpful for safety situations, as far as like, especially if it's nighttime. You want to be seen by other cars. You don't want to get hit by a car. So you do definitely put yourself in a situation where there may be more harm than not being involved or not being on site as a videographer or photographer.
And do you communicate with first responders and let them know, or they already see what you're doing? And
It's kind of like a balance. So I have communicated, especially kind of if I may have questions. A lot of times they don't want to or cannot speak on what's happening, basically because it's still under investigation. And they let you know too, boundary-wise, like how far you can go. And I try not necessarily to push those boundaries. Definitely being respectful is the way I go about it.
Sure, absolutely. And then once you have that footage, do you go to the news? How does this work?
Yeah, I've reached out to different news stations, and it just depends on if they're interested in the story. There's so much that goes on these days, especially with social media. Everybody has a camera, so I guess it can kind of be competitive. So it is helpful to be on site or have the shot, as they say, the money shot. So it just depends on the subject and if they're interested or not in picking it up. I've dealt with local newspapers and things like that, where they'll definitely be interested in it because it's something local. So it's something that they would want to share.
So you've done a lot in the San Diego area?
Yeah, from San Diego, kind of up to Riverside County.
Okay.
Yeah, because I've done a bit of moving over the years.
Sure, sure. Okay. Did you see Nightcrawler?
I did. Yeah, it was good.
It's
Definitely
good, yeah. Yeah, I mean, in terms of what the news wants, do you kind of get a sense of what most, news channels would need?
Yeah, and I think from a filmmaker's perspective, you kind of have to have an eye as far as, or maybe a videographer perspective, as far as framing the shot, and what it matters basically what's in the frame, like a film, So it just depends on, you get a sense of what's going to be used and what's not, and a lot of times you have to prepare kind of like a short reel in a sense to submit it to these news organizations to see whether or not it's something they want to, show.
And then they license the right? I mean, have you ever had anyone take the footage or say, no, we're not going to use it, and then it turns out they used it?
I haven't necessarily had that. I mean, I've had it where, early on where I wasn't receiving any money. I was supposed to receive a name credit and they didn't put my name on it.
Oh.
But, which was like a little bit like, I finally got it on there and they didn't put my name. But, you get over it and move on.
Sure, but yeah, that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you took time to go there and risk
Right.
your safety. And
Yeah.
How do you find out about some of these events that you're filming for, as a stringer journalist?
For myself, just locally, there's, different Facebook groups that may mention something, or just by being, out at the right time somewhere where something's going on, like a wildfire, for example. It's really, you can see the smoke from miles away. So it might be like, what's that? I've been in another situation where, I seen the police throwing out the, what's it called, where they try to fly.
Oh, the flares?
No, where they try to give them a flat tire. They throw out the.
Because they're trying to stop a suspect?
Yeah.
Right. There's like something they put out. Right.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I've been on site where, the police, try to stop a suspect and then they go and chase them and, see a helicopter. So I had the camera and just, you just kind of follow the situation. Don't get involved in the situation.
Right.
But, just see where it leads to. And that's one way.
And you say Facebook groups, what is like the topic, just,
Just
true
about the
crime
city.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
like city-wise, a Facebook group might say, hey, what's going on this street, or, what's going on in this part of the town. And so it just kind of gives you like a local tip of what's going on. I don't use all the scanners and things like that. I have used them. There's like an app you can use where, once a situation's going on, to kind of see where it's going, if that makes sense.
Sure, like the Citizens app or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's called Broadcast or
okay.
Broadcastify, something like that.
Interesting. Have you ever had, and you don't have to tell me which municipality or city, but them not want you to post something because it makes the city look bad?
I've never had where a city doesn't want me to post something, but I have found out, I guess you kind of do your own investigation as you're on site, for these stringer type of videos, where it may involve a minor. So, you may not want to show their face or things like that. It kind of goes along, I believe, also with being respectful. But, sometimes when it involves crime, the person may not be respectful to the public as well, and it is in the public, so it's a bit of a balance as far as what you decide to show.
Right. What's your adrenaline level, and what's your fear gauge when you're doing this?
Yeah, I've never been fearful, but definitely the adrenaline is definitely there, especially when something is happening and unfolding live in front of you. You feel like, it's like kind of the documentary aspect where you're capturing something live and, maybe others aren't seeing this yet and you just happen to be privileged and in the right place at the right time, if you could call it that. And you're seeing these events play out in front of your eyes. So But you have to also, maintain and deal with this adrenaline and stay calm, in order to get the shot. You might not have a tripod, so, you don't want shaky footage. There's the whole filmmaking aspect that goes into it as far as what you're capturing.
And there's a lot of stress that obviously goes along with being a first responder. You're probably experiencing some similar stress, maybe not as much because you're not responsible for helping the situation, but how do you deal with that afterwards if you've seen something that's very upsetting?
Yeah. After seeing something very upsetting, you kind of have to give yourself some downtime or maybe step away from the situation. Just think entirely about something else. Maybe don't directly go, to that footage and edit it together. Give yourself some time to figure out, what just happened? What did I just see?
Thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. Here is a complimentary question from our book Story Questions.